Hey everybody, welcome to the Focus Garage. In today's episode, this is actually a video that I've been wanting to make for a few months now because I'm exposed to this information a lot, and if you guys own a Focus ST, I'm sure you are too. Today we're going to be covering, is the Focus ST really that unreliable? So if you're an enthusiast for this car and you own one of these and you're on Facebook groups and you're in forums and things like that for this car, I'm sure you see it just as much as we do. Constant posts where, oh, I don't have any boost pressure, or oh, I have a misfire, oh, I have a check engine light, oh, this car's a piece of shit, it's unreliable, blah, 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 blah. And we're so tired of seeing it, and we kind of want to cover why we think we see this so often and, what's going on. Do you kind of want to start off a little bit, explaining the situation here?
Yes. I want to talk about, first of all, I want to talk about this. The car, the people who buy these cars are usually young people. They're averaging 20 to 23 years old, and this is usually their first manual, first boosted car, and this is a very special car. It has direct injection. It's not like traditional injection that would, maybe like save you a little bit. This is a very prestigious machine.
Yeah.
The levels that the engineering level that went into it is very high, and it's tuned to the maximum power from the factory.
With little room for error.
Yeah, you can't make an error with this car, so you have to drive it. That's in your mind. You can't just drive this like your regular Honda Civic,
and love the engine,
not thinking about it. So this is a very enthusiast-oriented car. So I want to start with that.
Yeah, kind of like the demographic of people that own these cars. Yeah, a lot of times they're lacking the knowledge to properly operate a vehicle like this. And I'm not saying it's some fine fucking race car or something like that.
No, but it's very intricate. You can't, one example that we always see this. You can't boost this car at 5th or 6th gear. You can't go wide open throttle
at low RPMs.
Low
in
RPMs.
5th or 6th gear.
Yes. 5th and 6th gear is only for overdrive. That's it.
And the thing is with this, because these cars have small turbos and they make a lot of torque down low, it feels like you can do that because if you floor it in 5th or 6th gear, low RPMs, the car's going to have that torque punch and you're not going to need a downshift. But what you're doing to your car there, and I'm not going to explain this in large because there's tons of articles about it, is you're introducing something called low-speed preignition to the car, where you're basically putting a lot of pressure on the internals of the engine because you're overloading the engine by being high boost at low RPMs.
You're leaning out the engine, basically.
Exactly. There's not enough fuel to compensate for all the boost that you're throwing in the engine. So that's the first thing we always see is people popping these motors because they're boosting at low RPMs at high load.
Stock or tune, doesn't matter.
You're always going to have that issue.
And it's not the cars or engineers or Ford's problem. It's actually the user that causes this problem.
Don't do that shit. Stop it.
Yeah, stop boosting. No boost. But the other thing is that
maintenance.
Yeah, oil, because the oil it's the dealers. I feel like they were not prepared enough, and when people take their oil, the car into their first oil change.
Oh, we see this all the time.
And they put the regular Focus oil in it, which is the
wrong weight, and it's not enough.
It's not enough. Yeah, and then you see these and people realizing, thank God they realize it, but think about all these people that don't. They put down on the receipt how much oil and what kind of oil they put it. Just check it, or just remind the service advisor that what kind of oil and how much oil it goes in. It's in your user manual.
Or if you can, do it yourself. Yeah. So you can ensure that the oil change is done properly and you know that the right amount of the right oil, is going in the car. But, that's one thing. Use the right oil and change it often. I'm not saying change it every 100 miles, but every, 3,000 to 6,000 miles is...
I would say 5,000 to 7,000 because you're using a synthetic oil and it should be good for that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with outside of that, but don't be one of those people that does, a once-a-year interval, and definitely don't skimp and run cheap oil. If you're going to run a sporty car, pay the extra $5 or whatever. I mean, me and you both run that 040, or I don't know if you do
40,
anymore.
Yeah,
the 040 Mobile 1. You can buy that at Walmart, and it's cheap, You can get the right amount and get it done that way.
It's a good quality oil.
It is, and it gets the job done.
Yeah.
The next thing I want to kind of talk about is fuel. A lot of times, people will tune these cars, and, you have a 91 octane tune or a 93 octane tune.
Even have an 87 octane tune.
Depending on where you
has it.
Yeah, depending on where you live and what's available to you. And a lot of times we see people that'll run a tune higher than the gas that they're putting in your car. And that is so bad for your engine because the engine is expecting and demanding a 93 octane fuel, and here you are pouring 89 or 87 in, and the car's requesting more power, and it can't make it, and you're going to suffer from that same lean condition that you were having all along, with boosting in the low RPMs and the high gears there.
And then you're going to see a knock.
No, yeah, you're going to get bad knock, and you're going to have holes in your engine block. So again, stop it. Don't do that shit.
Don't use the wrong... And then also, shop around and then look at what... Because... On the tuner, if you have the tuner, you can see the octane adjustment ratio, which goes with the OAR, and that's supposed to be -1. And if you get a bad gas, that will drop down to
closer to 0 or even closer to +1.
And when then you know that you have a bad gas. So stop going to that gas station, go to a different gas, and try to use good gas. I mean, in this area, surprisingly, Shell has good gas. So
some parts of the country, we see that it doesn't.
Yeah. So a lot of people uses different gas stations. So look in the forum and don't ask the question. Just search.
Yeah.
There's open threads talking about.
Yeah. Don't start the same thread that's been up 100 times. But yeah, OAR is something to watch for, like Andre said. It's octane adjustment ratio, and that basically says whether or not your car is liking the fuel that you're putting in it.
Yeah.
-1 means you're good. Anything that's not that means you have some sort of issue, whether you put the wrong octane in, or there's water in the gas, or something else.
And just change it. Don't
baby that
boost
tank.
it. Yeah, baby it. And if you can, drain it if it's possible. But if it's not, then
stay out of boost.
Stay out of boost.
And put some good fresh gas in it.
Yeah. And then you can maybe... No, I'm not going to say that. No.
All right. So the next thing I want to touch on then is kind of how this information is presented to us. So this is very similar to like customer service or anything. The people that are always talking about something and giving reviews and feedback are one end of the spectrum or the other. They're either going to have a really good experience or they're going to have a really bad experience.
Yeah. You don't see the medium.
You don't see the people that buy these cars and have no issues and don't modify them. You don't see that. So if you're on these Facebook groups and these forums, you see the extreme. So when you have an issue with these cars, guess what? When you're going to go look for answers, you're going to go on the forum. So it's no surprise here that when you go on the forum and you see 6 new threads about somebody having issues with these cars, it's because that's where people are going to look to answers. You got to keep in mind that Ford sells thousands of these cars a year. So seeing 6 or 7 people...
This engine is not just in the Focus ST. It's in the Escape. It's in the... I believe they have it in the Edge.
The Fusion.
The Fusion. And they even have it in the Range Rover Evoque. That has a 2.0 turbo in it as well.
So they use this engine in much more civilian vehicles that aren't nearly as sporty. And guess what? You don't see, hundreds and thousands of these cars having issues. So... It's one of those things that you got to take it with a grain of salt. That you might be feeling it. You see a lot of people complaining, but look at how it's being shown.
But I guess if you look at the percentage of how much it's produced and how much the percentage of having problem, it's probably really low. It's low enough that Ford is
acceptable.
Yeah, Ford is still continuing to produce this engine.
All right. So the next thing I want to touch on too is kind of falls back into the demographic and the type of people that owns these cars is user error. So I can't tell you how many times a day I see a thread where someone goes, "Help! I don't have any boost," and they install an intercooler and they did not put the charge pipes back on the intercooler properly, or they didn't tighten the clamps, and now the charge pipes are falling off, and you have nobody to blame for that but yourself. So when these people are saying, "Oh, Ford made a terrible car. This is unreliable. This keeps happening," you need to look and find a way to remedy the situation that you created in the first place.
I mean, the hose clamps that are used on the charge pipes are not good from the factory, but you can spend $5.
Get a T-bolt clamp.
T-bolt clamp, and it's good. It's perfectly fine. I didn't pop a charge pipe when I had stock turbo, and I was using T-bolt clamps. I never had that problem.
Even for most people, if you're not modifying the car and you're running a stock intercooler and stock boost levels, you're probably not going to blow these pipes up. It's not until you start adding more boost and changing these intercoolers and messing with these charge pipes when you start having issues. And that's just one example. We see people with improperly gapped spark plugs all the time, downpipes that aren't mounted properly, so you have a giant exhaust leak so your AFRs are off. I mean, this is not Ford's fault. This is not the car's fault. This is you and your friends that were too drunk to put this on properly that messed this up, and now you're blaming Ford and you're saying the car's bad.
Yeah, I mean, I always say that. I never had a problem with the car that I didn't create. So
Exactly.
All the problems that I had with the car that I created, maybe one, that was a bolt that it's keep my plate, license plate bolt.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Keep
the bulb.
flickering.
Yeah.
And it's just it's not my fault. It's just for.
But everything else that has
Yeah.
gone wrong, you've accepted responsibility
Yeah,
because
I mean,
you've been the one toying with it.
I messed it up. Yeah, I get that. And the last thing I want to talk about is the clutch. So,
I love
yes.
this. Yeah. Go ahead.
yes, I get it. This is your first manual car. Yes, you're learning. Yes, you don't know how to drive it. And yes, you're grinding, you're eating the clutch. But don't blame the transmission. Don't blame the clutch. Don't blame Ford.
How many
It's
miles
you.
are on your clutch? What kind of power do you
I,
got?
I have 53,000 miles on my car. 53,500 miles on my car. And I've been running 400 pounds of torque to the wheel from 10,000 miles.
So 40,000 miles, so 400 plus pound-feet of torque.
Yeah.
Guess what? Does your clutch slip?
No, it does not.
Wow, that's
Oh
crazy.
my god, that's crazy. Yeah, it surprises me, and it kind of makes me mad that like people are blaming the clutch. People are upgrading clutch to the wrong specs because
Then the
like,
car drives like crap. There's
Yeah.
clutch chatter. I've seen threads of people with 9,000 miles on their car and they need a new clutch.
That's insane.
Stock cars, like, oh, Ford, this car's a piece of crap. The clutch can't even hold the stock power. Look around, like maybe you're the problem.
We are lucky. We could have been driving a Golf GTI that we had to upgrade our
as soon as you
clutches.
flash a tune on
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
And
So
thanks Ford
for overbuilding
yeah,
that.
providing a great clutch and transmission, by the way.
Even with my Focus, I'm not big turbo, but my car has been full bolt on since like 3,000 miles on it. So that also is near that same range
Yeah.
of torque. 360 to 380 foot-pounds of torque. And 35,000 miles later, there is zero clutch issues with
Yeah.
the car. I've done probably 20 clutch dumps of drag strip racing and launch control.
Oh yeah, I mean
We do not baby these cars.
I drove this car in traffic, and it's like
Rush hour, to and from work.
First gear, it's just like you get off, get on, get off, get on. It's crazy, but and I didn't have a problem. So I think it's user problems that it's blamed to Ford for like making this car look like unreliable car, and it's not.
So let me ask you the question then, with the title of the video. Is the Focus ST unreliable?
No.
I would absolutely agree with you. I would say that this car is not unreliable. I would even go on the opposite side of that and say, all things considered, this is a pretty reliable car. I mean, our group of friends that, we know people that own these cars, us ourselves, we do not drive these cars lightly,
No.
but we take the proper steps to make sure they work.
Yeah.
I run 93 octane always. I change my oil often. I don't boost, at low RPMs and high gears. And it's fine.
I mean, you gotta pay to play. It's not me. It doesn't mean that you have to break something. It means you have to take the precaution so the stuff doesn't break. Like if you're running a high boost, stage 3 tune, go and get colder spark plugs. So
And know how to gap your plugs.
yeah, and then make sure. Don't trust the person who sent you the plugs.
Shipping happens.
Yeah, and then they could be when you bang it, it will close it or open it. Just make sure. Get a tool from AutoZone. It's like $3, and check them, and then put them in your car like that. And then make sure to run good oil. Make sure to run good gas. Make sure to give yourself a time to learn how to drive a stick shift before trying to race it and then blowing your clutch. It's just.
These are
Learn.
simple, preventable things. I mean, and if you're going to tinker with your car, please, 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 please have the mindset that you're going to be okay learning to work on the car. Because we have these people that will modify these cars, and like for example, they will not gap the spark plugs properly. And then when someone says to check your plug gap, they're like, well, I don't know how to do that. Then why did you put aftermarket plugs in? Why did you modify the car in the first place? You better have a good mechanic friend then if you're not going to want to tinker with it yourself, but you still want to have a modified
And also,
car.
you're a good mechanic. That's his job or her job, and
So expect to pay.
exactly. Or don't expect them to come to your house and like work on your car for
On
like
demand.
4 hours. Respect the person.
Exactly. So in the comments below, if you own one of these cars, if you're looking at one of these cars, I want to know what you've seen. If you've researched this, do you find what we're finding where everybody's complaining that the car is a piece of crap, or are you seeing the opposite where it's getting pretty good reviews and the car is something that holds up over time? I'd like to know. If you own a Focus ST, also tell us, how's your experience been? Are you one of the people that, we said don't do that and you've blown your engine 3 times because you keep flooring it in 6th gear?
I'm sure they're not gonna come out.
I hope you do. Please, I encourage it. But yeah, that's going to pretty much wrap it up for this one. Do you have anything else to add to that?
No, thanks for watching. Make sure to comment, subscribe, and share this video. Don't forget about 1,000 subscriber video. I want to blow my clutch.
Let's blow the clutch and smoke the tires.
Yeah, let's do it. So kudos to all.
We'll catch you in the next one.